You're making coffee or sitting in traffic when a sudden dark impulse cuts through the quiet, a flash of anger or a jagged, intrusive thought. For a split second, that spark is so bright you fear it reveals who you truly are. Then there's the weekend retreat, an emotional high so intense you're certain your struggles are over forever. But by Tuesday morning, that permanent peace has evaporated, replaced by the same old frustrations. We treat our internal autonomy like we're constantly on the brink of bankruptcy or windfall based on a single moment's data, judging our moral health by these volatile outliers. The biblical writer Paul offered a different framework. He didn't view the heart as a static ledger of deeds, but as a continuous, high-stakes conflict between two governing forces, the spirit and the flesh. To decode this struggle, we can use a framework from the trading floor of the Chicago Board of Trade. It's called auction market theory, and it was designed to find truth in the middle of chaos. Applying the cold logic of market pricing to the soul allows us to separate our internal static from our true directional trend. In this internal auction, the heart is constantly negotiating an exchange rate. Every thought and reaction is a bid in a relentless bidding war of desires. This chart shows a core concept of the theory: price. In a market, a price is simply what prints right now. That single spike flashing on the screen is an advertisement of an opportunity. It flashes, it prints, and it's gone. But as the data points accumulate, the chart expands into a market profile. Now we see value. Value isn't a single point. It's the bell curve where the market repeatedly spends time and volume. A passing temptation or a random intrusive thought is just a price probe. It's a bid flashing on the screen. The fact that the price printed doesn't mean the heart has accepted it as value. But when we entertain a thought, rehearsing it and spending time in that zone, we begin to establish value. This is the mechanism James describes: desire conceiving, growing, and eventually taking root. Our spiritual condition isn't found in the random prices we are offered. It is determined exclusively by what we repeatedly accept. We can visualize this acceptance as a value area. These are the boundaries of what you currently consider a fair way to think, speak, and act. The thickest part of that profile is the point of control, the absolute center of gravity for your internal life. You find your point of control when the system is under stress. When the heart is exhausted, does it default to the defensive habits of the flesh or the prayerful trust of the spirit? Traders watch for what's called a failed auction, when the price tries to break into new territory but can't find enough participation to stay there. It quickly collapses back to its old range. Tears and zeal that don't translate into reordered daily habits are just spikes that fail to find participation. They are momentary excursions that lack the volume required to move the point of control. Without a structural change in what the heart consistently practices, even the most intense breakthroughs remain temporary anomalies. Real transformation looks like value migration. It isn't just about stopping a bad thought. It's about the entire profile shifting its center of gravity away from the flesh and toward the spirit. This migration is slow. It's the result of daily, quiet obediences and trained discernment that gradually reprices how the heart values its options. Of course, the analogy reaches a limit. The Holy Spirit is a divine person who empowers this change, not an impersonal market force or a mechanical formula. Things like grace and forgiveness can't be plotted on a chart. This theory is an instrument for self-examination, not a machine for measuring your standing before God. But it does mean that an intrusive thought is not a character judgment. It is an advertisement your heart can choose not to buy. While we can't stop every spike that enters our minds, we can choose what we accept. And over time, the spirit can change the very shape of the auction.